seminar leader, and personal coach, I've learned that appreciation is the most important aspect of fulfillment and happiness. It's the key to real success. My story. On Thursday, June 5th, 1997, in the middle of my third season as a minor league player in the Kansas City Royals organization, I blew out my elbow and threw my last pitch as a professional baseball player. I was 23 years old. As a result of my injury, the next Sunday morning found me sitting on the floor of our locker room early in the morning before our game, soaking my left elbow in a bucket of ice. Soon, some of my teammates came in and sat down on the couches close to me. I was confused and wondered what all of them were doing there so many hours before the game. Then I remembered that these guys were coming to participate in baseball chapel, a short Bible study and prayer service led by a local minister a few hours prior to our game each Sunday. Baseball chapel was optional and somewhat informal, but many players attended regularly. I sometimes went, not really out of any devout religious faith, but because it was a break from the monotony of the activities and conversations that went on every day at the ballpark. That morning there was little choice. I was sitting there on the floor in the middle of the clubhouse, and the trainer told me not to move while icing my arm. Furthermore, I couldn't really get up and leave without disrupting what was about to take place. I stayed where I was. I was annoyed and definitely not interested in listening to the minister preach to us. As he began to talk, I ignored him. Instead, I focused on the pain in my arm and the anxiety I felt about it. I'd been dealing with arm injuries since I was 17, but this one felt different. An appointment with the team doctor was scheduled for the following day, and way down deep in my gut I feared the worst. My baseball career was going to be over. After the first few moments of chapel, however, the minister's story got my attention. Despite myself, I actually began to listen to him. The story he was telling took place many years ago and was about a young baseball player who was said to be phenomenally talented. At the tender age of only 19, he'd made it all the way to the major leagues. That season, his very first in the majors, the young ballplayer struggled mightily. By the end of the first month, he could no longer stand it. He walked into his manager's office and quit. He said baseball was no longer fun for him. He was frustrated because the fans were booing him, the newspaper reporters were writing negative things about him, and he couldn't hit a curveball to save his life. He wanted to go home. His manager looked at him, put an arm around his shoulder, and told him that he understood. He realized that the young man was frustrated and was uncomfortable facing public failure and the resulting ridicule for probably the first time in his life. The manager said, "I know it's no fun to fail, but this game is hard and sometimes you struggle. One of the hardest parts of playing baseball is that it's done publicly. When you fail, people see it, talk about it, and write about it. I know how difficult it can be. Unfortunately, it goes with the territory. Hang in there. You have the talent, son. You just have to believe in yourself. I believe in you. You can be a star here in the big leagues." The ballplayer listened to his manager, whom he respected, and he accepted his praise. He decided he would stay with it for the rest of the season. He went back out and began to improve. He started to hit those curveballs, and by the newspaper reporters began to write some positive things about his game. By the end of the season, he was playing pretty well. He decided to come back and play again the following year. The minister then paused for a moment and looked around the locker room at each of us sitting there. Slowly and dramatically, he said, "And Willie Mays went on to become one of the greatest players of all time." Then the minister asked us, what if Willie Mays had quit? What if he'd given up and given in to his fears and doubts? We would have lost not only one of the greatest baseball players that ever lived, but also an American icon. The part of his story that resonated with me was that, even though we all fail, we all worry, and we all have times we want to quit, there's an incredible amount of power when we have the courage to believe in ourselves and appreciate our gifts and talents. Sometimes we just need a nudge in a positive direction, like the one Mays got from his manager. Listening to this story, so many emotions welled up inside me. Right there, in the middle of the clubhouse, with my teammates around me, I began to cry. I felt embarrassed. Crying in the locker room was definitely not cool, but I couldn't control myself. The tears flowed because I could relate completely with how Willie Mays felt when he wanted to quit. Moreover, it hit me that in my effort to be a great ball player all those years, I'd rarely appreciated how good I already was. My focus was always on getting better. I was consumed with not being great enough, and beat myself up constantly. I'd been afraid my entire baseball career that I was not going to make it, instead of appreciating how far I'd come. Seeing things more clearly. Thinking back at that moment in the locker room, I was reminded of many of my great baseball experiences. Playing Little League with my friends, making my hometown all-star team and going to the state championships, traveling all over California with my summer league team in high school, getting recruited to play baseball at Stanford University, playing in the World Championships for Team USA, getting drafted by the New York Yankees out of high school, battling back from injuries and surgery to pitch successfully in college, winning the Pac-10 Conference Championship.